Here's the quote from Kirby: "They can come after us all they want. We're coming right back." This is something he was talking about earlier in the summer, and that's just been the basic attitude of Georgia under Kirby for a long time, which is always moving forward. Like they're not going to be dictated to. The way he puts it is, we're not going to be hunted, which is maybe a little bit naive, but it's a mindset. Everybody playing college football is hunting. Everybody's out there to win. But I think that Georgia's preparations, well, I'll say for sure, I think Georgia's preparations are at the level most schools are not. And the staying on the front foot about everything is really important. I'd be straight. I mean, I'm thinking of this summer and everything that happened over the off season as we're 4 days away from Georgia's first game. They're coming into the season ranked number 1 in the country. Their back-to-back national championship teams are gone, but this team comes back, and all they're thinking about is moving forward. They're not defensive about what has happened in the past or games that were played in the past. I mean that's not their focus right now, and we're coming right back. So if someone's coming at Georgia, Kirby's kind of view of things is that they're going to go right back at them. I think that's almost the way that's said is not quite the way that Georgia is. He's saying something he wants to say, but I think Georgia goes at them first and then they come back. I mean, this is a team and a program that has gotten used to striking first. Think about a lot of the games that Georgia plays. The vast majority of them, they take a hold of it from the start. They don't waste time getting leads. And from that point forward, it becomes very difficult for teams to recover and get back into games. Very hard. Biggest reason is the defense has been so good. But I put a graphic up, or I'm going to put a graphic up later this week on social media. Georgia has come. This is in 11 games. Scrolled right past it. 11 games this under Kirby Smart, Georgia has been tied or losing in the fourth quarter and come back to win. So I believe my math is correct on that. I can't find it quickly here, but that really says something. Yes, 11 victories when tied or trailing late. North Carolina in 16, Missouri in 16, Kentucky in 16, Auburn in 16. TCU in 16. So in the first season, 5 of their wins were tight games or they were losing in the fourth quarter. 17 against Notre Dame, 17 Oklahoma Rose Bowl, 20 Cincinnati. And then 3 games after that, which directly led to the national championship. Well, 2 of the 3 did. The 2022 Alabama game, the national championship game, the game at Missouri, and then the Ohio State game. Georgia was losing with 2 minutes to go against Ohio State, with 15 minutes to go against Missouri. They were down 10 with 14:09. And then they were down 18-13 with 10 minutes to go against Bama. And, so they've been really late in some of these games. I mean, they were losing in the last minute against Oklahoma and then the last 3 minutes against Ohio State. And they had to save themselves. Actually, it was even later than that against Ohio State. So they won that game with a minute to go. So twice they've powered their way to national championships or national championship appearances with very late victories. That's just what this is. Speaking of which, take advantage of the offer we've got. It's running out this week. If you sign up for Dog Post today, you're going to get our 2023 preview included. That's going to come with a code, an email from our friends at Red Zone. They're going to give you a free t-shirt. They're going to give you 20% off any item in the store. And in addition, you got 30 days to spend that coupon with the code from Red Zone. If you've ordered double dogs or if you're continuing to order double dogs, and you sign up, I'll give you a month for free over at Dog Post. And this week we're gonna have what we're hearing tomorrow on Wednesday. We're gonna have final fillings on Thursday. We're gonna have our picks on Friday. On Sunday, we're gonna have Leggy's thoughts, Matt's thoughts from the box on Saturday. Don't miss out on all this, y'all. I mean, it's that time of year, you know. So I just the moving forward is the part that Georgia under Kirby Smart has been so successful under, and he what's remarkable to some degree about the 11 victories is, Georgia's not losing late often. That's not what they do. They're not a program that, I mean, typically they're blowing people out, as you know. Not in these cases. I mean, these were tight fights, and Kirby and them have played about 100 games, so 10% of them have been them coming back late. I wonder how many competitive games they've lost late, because there's not been a lot of those either. By the way, our friends at EkoPoly, this chair is made in Georgia, in Dodge County, by Georgians. You're keeping the manufacturing at home in the state. EkoPoly furniture combines elegance, durability, ensuring that your backyard oasis, or your pool, or your mountain house, or the place at the beach remains a sanctuary for years to come. With its exceptional resistance to weather, fading, and wear, requires minimal maintenance, allowing you to spend more time relaxing and less time worrying about upkeep. EkoPoly is Georgia made. And when you're relaxing in the EkoPoly chairs, watching the dogs play, a lot of y'all have these outside televisions. You're kind of doing your thing in the backyard, or I've never seen anybody watch a Georgia game by the pool, but I'm sure there's plenty of y'all out there. Man, I'm just saying, this is really nice and comfortable stuff. Take advantage of it. There's a link down below from our friends at EkoPoly as well. 20-year warranty on that. But is this year 8 for Kirby? Yeah, I think it is. In the 8 years, they've essentially, the average is that they've had at least one of these a year. We know that's not the case because it's skewed so heavily to 2016. But something happened at the start that moved Georgia to this. See, they built this from the beginning. They have been moving forward in this fashion. Now, when I started the program, I started talking about Georgia being on the front foot. You're not going to get these come from behind wins without being aggressive, without understanding that you've got to be ready to play for 60 minutes the entire time, and in the case of the Oklahoma game, even more. But some of these games were some real nerve-wrackers, man. I mean, that Notre Dame game, Georgia was the better team, and they did not close Notre Dame out quite the way you'd like them to, but that game was, that was a tight game late. They trailed that game, and Rodrigo came on. There were a lot of first-time players on the field in that 17 game against Notre Dame. Jake Fromm, Andrew Thomas, DeAndre Swift. Those were all first-year players who were going in. The three of them weren't starting, but those guys were believed in on that third down. They didn't convert it, but it was third and really late in the game, and they needed to get a first down. That was the group that they went with, okay? The Oklahoma game was just wild. I mean, if that fumble doesn't happen, Georgia probably wins that game in regulation, I guess. Because if you remember, they had to drive the field with about a minute or so to go under Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm was not the reason that Georgia got to the Rose Bowl. He was not the reason they won the SEC championship game. But he was the reason why at the end of that game they got that thing to overtime. Period. End of story. So he deserves full credit for that. The Cincinnati game, that game right there, the Ohio State game, and the first Alabama game under Kirby, those were the biggest three fights that I can remember Georgia playing in this run of time. Now, there have been other real, difficult games, but the Ohio State game was back and forth, no question. The Cincinnati game, Georgia had to pull itself up and get to the finish line, which they narrowly did, a 3-point victory thanks to Azeez Ojulari at the end and Jack Pinesley. But that was a real fight. And then, Alabama in both 17, I guess we're calling it? Both 17 and 18. I mean, those were colossal fights. Like, those teams played to the level of Georgia, and 2 of the 3 of them lost. But I think they deserve credit for the position they were in. But when you think about, I wonder how many games Georgia's trailed in the fourth quarter and lost. Well, we know every game they've lost, they've trailed in the fourth quarter, right? I mean, they've only lost one game on the last play of the game in Kirby's time at Georgia, which was the Alabama game in 17. But I don't know that I can recall any other games. They've only lost like 16 games or whatever it is. I think this says something, though, to me. Georgia's not going to be dictated to under Kirby Smart. That's what they say. And boy, I'll tell you right now, though, with the exception of the LSU game in 19, and I don't know that there's been a lot of other, games where, they just got beat the whole time. Florida in 16, in theory. I'm trying to think in 16. I mean, they lost 10. I misspoke. They lost to Tennessee on the last play of the game in 16. So back-to-back years of that. Literal last play of the games. So not like Vanderbilt that year. But there's, the toughness that is developed in the program at Georgia is not a mistake. Like, it's not surprising that Georgia has 15 first-round draft picks under Kirby and 55 total draft picks. That's a lot. They've got 11 victories when tied or trailing late, 27 touchdowns that did not occur on offense, 100 points of those 27 touchdowns came from the defense specifically. You know what's amazing? Georgia did not score a defensive point last year. That is bizarre. They scored 14 and 16. They scored 6 in 2017, 12 and 18, 18 and 19. In 22, they scored 22 points on defense. And then in 21, obviously, one of those being a pick 6 from Keeley. There were 4 pick 6s in 2022. 2021, they scored 28 points. Now, the Christopher Smith 2022 touchdown, that was on special teams against LSU. I will add, too, in 2021, that Georgia's pick 6 mattered. The two of the pick 6s were very important. It was the only touchdown scored against Clemson in that game. Like, it was the only touchdown scored in the Clemson game between either team. And then, of course, Keely Ringo's pick 6. So, I expect more points from Georgia's defense this year. They only scored 8 points on non-offensive touchdowns last year, too. Or, excuse me, on special teams points last year. I mean, it's definitely been that this program, they can score in different ways. But, they're tough, man. This is a tough bunch. But anyway, they're not going to be dictated to, and that's what Kirby was talking about.